Welcome to Tabletop Tommies. I'm Jonny,
And I'm Phil.
and in today's episode, we're talking about the armies of Hungary. We're going to see if they're any good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what people think because they seem to be popular so far in V3, and I dismissed them when we did our V2 Armies of, and basically said they were poor man's Germany. So we'll find out in the next however many minutes whether or not they still are, or actually are people onto something, because they are appearing quite a lot in tournaments.
Yeah, I'm curious about that because they've got a lot of the toys, but do they have the rules to back it up? Should we jump straight into the national characteristics?
Yeah, so if we just look at last V2's characteristics, so they had Axis support, and they also had Experienced Officer Corps, which allows you to take HQ units as fanatic.
Which was pointless.
Which was pointless. Yeah. So hopefully they've got slightly better in V3. So they've still got Axis support. So they can take a single unit from either the Germans or Italians. They don't get the special rules applicable to German or Italian units. It must be included as part of platoon. It takes the slot of an equivalent unit, and it may not be one of the platoon's mandatory units. And it cannot be veteran, nor a vehicle with a damage value of 10 or higher.
Except for the Tiger 1, which you can take.
Except
And
for the Tiger
it does
1.
get to keep its buzzsaw as well. So if you want to waste your points, go get yourself a buzzsaw Tiger 1. It suffers the same issue that the Bulgarian access support rule has, where it's filling a slot. So unless there's a specific niche that needs filled by the Hungarians, I don't see this being a particularly well-used rule. So hopefully they've got something more exciting.
So they've got the roving patrols, which we've seen before. We saw it on Bulgaria, for example. So enemy snipers, observers, and spotters cannot use their special deployment rules. They must instead be deployed like the rest of the force, and enemies cannot outflank the Hungarians. They must always come in from their own table edge when arriving from reserve.
Yeah, at risk of repeating myself, not a good rule. It's sad when you make your opponent have a negative effect. It's never as much fun as you having a positive effect. The other thing as well is this is just pretty dull. Like it's a copy and paste from Bulgaria, which is sad. There's so much opportunity, especially because Hungary got really padded out with like Fortress Budapest, etc. There were so many good opportunities to have fun national characteristics here. Like the one I think it was called Hussar Tradition, where your tanks basically got lead the way,
Yeah.
which was a quality rule. It's not overpowered, but it gives you something unique if you're playing Hungarians, and it's just feels like such a shame that we're suffering the same boring rules that the other miners have.
I agree, but and I said this previously, they'd have, Warlord did say that you wouldn't see anything fancy in the Get You By PDFs that was going to appear down the line. And the Get You By PDFs are effectively lifted from the original Armies of. So things that appeared in Case Blue and Fortress Budapest and that kind of stuff, they're not going to be appearing in the PDF. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and it's a shame because, as I said, because it was in a theatre book already, these special rules had already been play tested for that purpose. We're not reinventing the wheel, so just going that little bit beyond without going the full way would have been quite a nice little sort of get you by step whilst also keeping it exciting. But we've got what we've got now, so shall we move into units?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point in terms of, we've played with these units already. And then it's like, oh, actually, but you need to put them on the shelf for a bit. And then
Mm.
wait until, however long, wait until the army's off comes out. Anyway, so infantry HQ units, you've got an officer, which can be inexperienced, regular, or vet. You've got a medic, which is veteran, and you've got a forward artillery observer.
The standard complement.
Yep.
Infantry squads and teams, then. What? Anything exciting?
So we have a grand total of 2 infantry teams. That said, you can customize them.
Mhm.
So you've basically got an infantry section, which is inexperienced, regular, or vet. It's 5 men, and I'm pausing because the points costs seem. Why are they?
It's because the NCO has a pistol, so he gets a one
Ah,
point reduction on his rifle. And so
thank
every
you.
squad level is 1 point less than usual. So 34 in experience, 49 regular, 64 vet.
Thank you very much. That was why I was pausing. So normally, 7, 10, 13, but then a -1 for the NCO with the pistol. You could take up to 8 more, so you could have a 13-man section if you wanted to. You could give one an LMG. You could give one an SMG. You could give them a Panzerfaust. You can give them tank grenades. You can give them the special engineers rule if you want. And interestingly, if you do that, you can then add a flamethrower into the unit rather than just making them engineers, but not being able to make them engineers with a flamethrower in the unit. So that's slightly different.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's before Germany got their book, where they didn't have regular engineers. Hungary with regular engineers was a nice way to go if you wanted to play sort of a German theme, but with regular engineers.
And then the last thing, if you take him as veteran, you may make them stubborn for +1 point, so that becomes the paratroopers of the gendarmerie. Or you can give them fieldcraft for +1 point, which gives them or makes them into mountain troops.
You know what I think this is missing? A way to make them tough fighter.
Mhm.
Because everyone else seems to be getting some sort of tough fighter like route.
Hmm.
We don't have a tough fighter route here, which is a bit of a shame. Um, but you are getting a flamethrower, so
Yeah.
come see, come ça.
Yeah, yeah. If you do want tough fighters, though, you can take the cavalry section.
Yeah,
So the only other option in the infantry squads and teams is the cavalry section, which is 6 men, veterans on horseback, up to 4, so maximum of 10. You can give one an LMG, you can give one a Panzerfaust.
very vanilla troops here, basically, is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice getting fieldcraft because that's not everyone has a fieldcraft option.
Mm. Hmm.
But outside of that, standard cavalry squad without much like to write home about, and sort of standard loadout for your squads with only one SMG available. So
Yeah.
interesting. Maybe we'll see something exciting in the teams.
We won't. We might, but we won't. To be fair, you've kind of got what you want, So you've got a medium machine gun team, which is inexperienced, regular, and vet. You've got a mortar team, which you can make into a medium. Can't take it as a heavy. And you can add spotter to your medium mortar. You could take an anti-tank team with an anti-tank rifle. You can make it into Panzerschreck if you want. You can take a sniper, regular or vet, and you can take a flamethrower.
So fairly standard. No heavy motor. They didn't have a heavy motor in V2 either. Nothing I really want there, if I'm honest, except maybe it's an anti-tank rifle just to get some extra cheap dice.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing a sort of a standard list kind of thing, you're probably going to be looking at mortars and maybe also a sniper as well. So it's got the kind of stuff that you would like to see to flesh out your infantry support. But you're right, there's nothing that's jumping out and saying, pick me, I'm the special one in the box kind of thing.
In the next section, in artillery,
Hmm.
we do have more than the usual miners.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's certainly, one or two putting a hand up and saying, pick me. The first one is not. It is a anti-tank gun, which is a light anti-tank gun, inexperienced, regular, or vet. You can upgrade it to a medium, or you can upgrade it to a heavy. So we haven't seen that all the time, to be fair, with some of the miners, to be able to take a heavy anti-tank gun. So it's there if you want.
I don't. I'm all right, thanks.
Okay. Uh, in terms of howitzers, you can take a light howitzer, which can be also upgraded to a medium or a heavy. Again, heavy howitzer, that's not something that we've always seen. You can have a gun shield and you can give it a spotter if it's a medium or a heavy.
Yeah, standard, bit pricey again, but I noticed you skipped something exciting there.
I did. I'm going to keep skipping it. You can also take a Nebelwerfer, which is interesting that it's in the basic list rather than it being through an Axis support option. So we don't see this in the other Axis miners. So you can take a Nebelwerfer, which is 46 points in experience, 65 or 85 veteran. Um, yeah, that's possibly something that you might want to look at. In some of the tournament builds or stuff that people are posting online, we are seeing Hungary with Nebelwerfers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, they did have their own, which I cannot remember the name of, but
Mm,
an equivalent one with a rule set,
yes.
and we've just got the universal one here.
Okay, but the interesting one that you may want to look at slightly more closely is the Mace Thrower. So it's 96 points in experience or 120 points regular, comes with 4 men, and it's a rocket launcher. It's fixed, it's a team weapon, it's a shaped charge, and it has then 2 special rules. So it has the 2 rocket salvo. So the weapon has 2 ammunition types and has the profiles indicated below. You need to declare which profile you were using before firing, and you must load 2 rockets of the same type. So the next shot taken on a subsequent turn will need to use the same profile. Then, when both rockets have been fired, you start the process again, declaring what type of ammo you're going to load. So the first one, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, is the Mace. that has a range of 36 inches. It's a single shot with a pen of +7. And then the alternative is the Rainfall, which also has a range of 36 inches. Again, a single shot, but has an HE 3-inch template.
I remember looking at this extensively in V2 because it's fun, but it's never been hugely competitive because it's quite a lot of points, not a huge amount of range. So you tend to get like hit by mortars before you get the opportunity to do your big thing. And also people just avoid you. It's good. I guess it's good for shutting down a section of table.
Mhm.
If you took one on
Yeah.
each side and then just funnel your opponent in the middle, but equally, because it's direct only, and now it's 4 up, maybe it's 5 up if you got a pin, there's a good chance of missing that direct hit.
Hmm. The other thing that makes it interesting is the small carriage rule. So the weapon system was actually mounted on captured Soviet Maxim machine gun carriages. As such, it was too small then to tow behind a vehicle. So the crew and weapon are instead counted as infantry when being transported, and they take up 6 transport slots inside a vehicle. The crew may move the weapon up to 6 inches when given a run order, even over rough ground.
It's got fieldcraft.
Yeah, which it's expensive, 120 points regular, and obviously because it's not in direct firing. So if you took it in experience, you are going to suffer that -1 for firing. But there's potentially something there.
Yeah, I'm putting it in the fun, and I'm not regretting bringing it category, but it's not in the uncompetitive category. It's
Yeah,
like it's not in either end of the spectrum. It's somewhere in the middle where it might be worth trying for a bit of fun.
yeah. It sort of reminds me of the Blacker Bombard in the
Yes.
British kind of early war list, but better because it's got a bigger range and it's got the 3-inch template and the +7 pen. But that idea of this kind of like small man-handled weapon that sort of shoots out a projectile direct.
The irony here is this actually goes against your national characteristics because where this would be super useful is you put it on the flank and you put it in ambush. So if anyone comes in off the outflank, because you only got 36-inch range, oh, you're
Yeah.
welcome to outflank me. But if you do it off your back
Hmm.
lines, I'm going to hit you with a 3-inch template or a +7.
Hmm.
Because they can't outflank,
Yeah.
then they're always going to come on the other side. Yeah, that's such a shame. Actually, they should have the opposite rule where they force their opponent to outflank.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. It would shut down a section of the table. So if you wanted to lean into the different options in the units, took one on each flank, you could shut down some lanes, but you're going to be vulnerable to indirect ranging in on you.
Yeah,
But then you
Ma-
can just run it through rough ground. So maybe not.
maybe as a pair to your Nebelwerfer platoon. Like so, you've got your Nebelwerfers. You have this in amongst them. So if someone does try to ram your Nebelwerfers with infantry or a tank, you've got some way to counter it. But I think there's probably other ways to do that. The 120 points I might want to spend on a tank for myself because it's got a bit more versatility. Speaking of, what options do I have if I want to go that route?
Nice lead in there, Johnny. So for tanks, this is, I think, why people are taking Hungarians in tournaments. So we'll start off with the CV-33 or CV-35 tankette. So it's 35 points regular. You can take it in experienced or vet. It has a forward-facing hull-mounted medium machine gun. It's a 7+ armored car, and if you want to, for an extra 10 points, you can replace the single medium machine gun for 2 medium machine guns.
Okay, I'm not going to. It's
Okay.
machine guns on tanks. Not, it's not their day,
Yeah,
is it?
well, 65 points for 2 MMGs on a 7+. It's going to put pins out.
Yeah, if it was German, then we
Hmm.
might be talking, but not in this
Okay.
list.
Can I tempt you into a Toldy?
I've always loved a Toldy.
Okay. So a Toldy then 90 points regular. It has a turret-mounted anti-tank rifle with a coaxial medium machine gun as an 8+ light tank. Um, Not really keen at the moment with the AT rifle, but for an extra 35 points, I can replace the AT rifle with a light anti-tank gun. So for 125 points, I can have a light AT gun in a turret with a coax medium machine gun on an armor 8 light tank.
Yeah, Toldy too. Meh.
Okay. Or a Turan. So Turan's 175 points for regular, has a turret-mounted light anti-tank gun with a coaxial medium machine gun and a forward-facing hull-mounted medium machine gun on a armor 9 chassis. And if you want to, you can replace the turret-mounted light anti-tank gun with a medium anti-tank gun for plus 20 points. So for 195 points, you're getting a medium AT with a coax, forward-facing hull MG on a 9 plus chassis.
So we've got sort of three comparable options to other armies. Nothing that jumps out as me as particularly like the one to pick compared to other nations. But none of
Okay.
them are so bad that like you should definitely avoid them, in my opinion.
Okay. What about the Zarini assault gun? So 200 points regular, forward-facing hull-mounted medium howitzer, and one crew-carried medium machine gun with a 360 arc of fire. It's a 9 plus tank. You can add a forward-facing pintle-mounted MMG for 15 points. And because it's a crew-carried medium machine gun, you can fire either the machine gun or the main gun. You're not going to fire the machine gun instead of the main gun, are you? Let's be fair.
um, Let me try. I can't think. Now I've got two pivots. There's not a time you'd need to shoot that machine gun, is there? But the shame here, just to bang the same drum, we've lost options because they haven't sort of used the theatre books. There's a lovely model Mad Bob makes of this with the skirts on. Now I
Yes.
can't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
pay to have the skirts anymore. I mean,
Hmm.
I can still use it with the skirts, it's just I get none of the benefits anymore. Um, and the other option that it's lost is this is a versatile gun where it can fire either as
Mm.
anti-tank or howitzer if you paid the points to carry the extra shells.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was a really nice touch for this tank, which
yeah.
makes me think I'm going to see less of them now compared to V2.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The whole versatile gun. You saw it. I can't remember the name of it, but the Soviet vehicle that has a Ziz-3,
Mm.
effectively, it's awesome for that. For that reason. Yeah.
Again, competent, but maybe we'll see something more exciting in the armored cars.
Okay, so the armored car option. You've effectively got two. Yeah, two different options. So 80 points basic for regular. It's a turret-mounted anti-tank rifle with a coaxial medium machine gun, which is representing the Toldy 1 or the CSABA 39M on a
Chauba, I
seven.
believe.
Charbar, thank you. On a 7 plus armor car. I'm not going to try and pronounce it after my horrific attempts in the German episode of pronouncing things, which people have picked up on. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's a 7 plus armored car, turret mounted AT rifle with coax medium machine gun. Now you can replace the anti-tank rifle and the coax medium machine gun with a turret mounted medium machine gun and give it the command vehicle rule for free, which makes it the 40M Charbar. Um, it has recce, and if you take the 39M 40M Charbar, it has dual direction steering, which may not actually be the best thing to have these days, given the rules for reversing when you fail orders.
It's good
Um,
when you're not failing, though, to be fair to it.
mm,
Until
yeah,
that point, it's a pretty cool rule to have, especially if you're a command vehicle. You can really whiz around supporting people.
true, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, you've got your Toldy one armored car with an AT rifle. It's still expensive. It's still 80 points for a 7 plus recce just with an AT rifle.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's I don't know. I think yeah, the AT rifle has gotten better on recce vehicles because now you're
Yeah.
getting a point blank bonus. But I don't know. I think you do want the wheels, and so the Toldy probably isn't the direction you're going to go, just because you want if you are rocking an anti-tank rifle, you need to get close, and so those extra 3 inches could make all the difference.
Oh, so it's a Toldy a tracked vehicle.
Yeah, it is. It's a little track
Ah,
tank.
okay.
It's a little tankette, whereas
Right.
the Chopper is a little wheeled one. It looks quite a lot like a Panhard.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Always good. Like that. Now, okay, so if we're not quite taken with any of them, the final one
This is the
is
banger.
this is the banger, yeah. So it's the Nimrod. So it's 85 points regular for a turret-mounted heavy autocannon on a 7 plus chassis. It's obviously got the flak rule. It is open topped as well.
Yeah, it's got a good name. It looks cool. The heavy autocannon's useful because it's got pins plus enough strength to do damage to most things. V2, I would have said these weren't the way to go because when you've only got one slot to use it for this 1 week tank, but actually quantity has a quality of its own, and so now you can take five for what are we looking at? Sort of 425 points
420,
plus
20,
command.
30, 30, yeah, something like that, yeah. Mhm.
Like that could wreck someone's day, especially if they're running a German like half track. army,
Mm,
which
hmm
might be all the rage now.
mm,
These guys just hammering those half tracks could be the way to go.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing, isn't it? It's lots and lots of Nimrods because yeah, autocannons are good in V3, obviously against lighter armor, but also for putting pins out unless the target is veteran armored vehicle. And heavy autocannons even better because it will threaten those armor 9 vehicles. And like you say, the ability to take more than one now with the platoon selectors is why people are looking into this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think either take none or take four or more.
yeah,
Don't take
yeah,
one and two
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
you'll just get bullied because you're open topped, I think.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a fair point. Yeah, yeah. Final thing in terms of transports and tows, it's all the common vehicles in the back of the rulebook.
Which is fair enough. I don't think like they have a famous truck, but it's just a truck. Like there's nothing, there's nothing it's worth writing home about their transports. I
Yeah.
don't think, and I don't think they're like Czechoslovakia where they were making their own copies of stuff either.
Mm, true. Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of a shame they don't have access to an armored transport because they've got engineers which can take a flamethrower in the unit. Because the old
Mm.
classic, Brengineers from V2 would be a nice option for Hungary. Yeah, that's a slight shame.
Yeah, that's funny. Actually, I hadn't thought of that because I think because they worked so closely with the Germans, like it, and we had those sort of Budapest selectors where you had
Mm,
mixed platoons.
hmm
And so
Yeah,
having
yeah.
the German half tracks in your platoons would have been quite cool. But I guess it's sort of in our stopgap PDF, we're not going to
hmm
see that kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I dismissed them in V2 as basically being like German light, but I think they are looking pretty solid in V3. The ability to take the Nimrods, in terms of more than one of them is fantastic. You've got the access to the Nebelwerfer rather than having to bring it in through the Axis support option. So if you really wanted to, you could take what 4 Nebelwerfers, 5 Nimrods. Think about the kind of options you want to take for your infantry to make it legal and legit. I quite like the cavalry section. We talked about this in a previous Armies of episode. That ability to whiz up to an objective if you're playing key positions, early doors, or to whiz into a sector if you're playing land grab and so on, is quite handy. They are quite vulnerable though because they don't get the protection from cover in the same way that the regular infantry do. But yeah, I can see why people are taking Hungary at the moment.
I think just take Germany. You get all the options Hungary have. Like, yes, you might not have the exact same model. So if you wanted to run like the Nimrod because you think it's a cool model, then yes, run Hungary. But if you're just looking for an army to play, the Germany book has the same entries plus probably 4 times as many entries for you to pad out with. There's nothing unique that Hungary have that I think Germany aren't offering. The roving patrols, like stopping your opponent outflanking, that is something Germany can't do. But I'd say Germany's national characteristics more than make up for that loss. The one thing that is interesting that we didn't touch on when we went through the cavalry is in V2, Hungary always had that cavalry rule where they couldn't charge. Now that's gone. That disappeared in FAQ. And so it's interesting that we've brought that FAQ in to keep that cavalry useful rather than using the V2 rules. But we haven't brought much else in from other sources. But that is worth noting. If you've got some Hungarian cavalry, this may
Mm.
be your moment to shine finally.
Yeah, that is interesting because we've sort of tried to kind of work out where the PDFs have come from, and a lot of them are basically lifted from the original Armies of versions, but this one isn't. So this FAQ change, or this errata change, has been carried into the V3 PDF, but other errata changes to other nations from V2 erratas haven't appeared in the PDFs.
Yeah, it feels
Mm.
very like it's almost like a random chance generator, effectively, because the other one that's included is the flamethrower team, which I believe was a Fortress Budapest edition, the flamethrower team for Hungarians. It's not part of their original Armies of Italy
Yeah,
army
that's right.
list.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so,
Nor engineers.
yeah, and
Yeah.
again, I think engineers were Fortress Budapest, but I wonder if what we've done is we've started with a generic Armies of Minor Nation PDF and then deleted teams rather than going the other way. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, there's some weird inconsistencies going on here that Did mean you do have to just sort of pay a little bit more attention if you are taking your V2 Hungarians into V3 or one of the other minors.
Yeah.
Phil, if I'm thinking about building a Hungarian army off the back of this episode, what manufacturers make Hungarian models at the minute? Are you aware of any really good ones?
Yeah, so if you want metal models, then have a look at Great Escape Games, because as with a lot of the other minor nations, they do provide the minis for them. The minis are great as well. I do like Great Escape Games. They're slightly different in sort of ratio and proportion to
Mm,
Warlord games. They're slightly more, well, they're more realistic rather than being heroic, effectively. I've got some of their Stalingrad Germans mixed in with, my Warlord games Germans, and they look cool. I like the sculpts. So yeah, they've got some decent Hungarian ones, both summer and winter options as well, depending on what floats your boat.
nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big metal model man. I like plastics because I like to have lots of different poses on the go. Easy to convert as well with plastics. So when I did mine, I just used the winter German box. I'm not a historian, but at a surface glance, winter Hungarian uniforms and winter German uniforms are very similar. And so if you are just looking to pad your troops out, I think that's probably a great way to go using that winter German box set from Warlord. And especially if you mix the two in, they'll give you a great bit of variety, especially if you're doing very late war, sort of Fortress Budapest, a ragtag force. I think that would look a really good force.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Hungary in the war. It's not my strong point at all. So, um, but yeah, that sounds good. That's a good tip there.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed looking through the armies of Hungary with us. If you did, please do share, like, and subscribe.
If you're interested in buying a Hungarian army, do have a look at Great Escape Games, available from Firestorm Games. Affiliate link is in the description. That's all for this episode,
It's Tatar for now from me.
and ta-ta for now from me.